Hey guys, thanks for joining us for our Thanks Brain Morning Blend. We're shooting this with our new 360 degree camera, and if you've never watched a 360 degree video before, you can actually control the video and you can look around all you want. In the upper left hand corner of the video is a set of arrows that you can click on and it'll actually move the camera around. If you don't want to do that, you can always click and drag anywhere in the video and it'll move the camera to wherever you want, all 360 degrees. If you are watching on a cell phone, all you have to do is just move your cell phone around like this, and you'll be able to move the camera whichever way you want. So thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again.
Thank you very much for coming. Today we have Dr. Oster from Regent University. He is the professor of innovation and entrepreneurship. He's one of my, if not the best professors that I had during my time at Regent. And he is fantastic. So I know that he has something really special for us today planned. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Oster.
Thank you. Especially Jim Crawford and Scott for inviting me today. I've toured Parari and had quite a bit of experience with the folks there, and what an innovative group, what a cool group to work with. I've had a great opportunity to study and use innovation for about the past 30 years. Okay? But one of the things I do is meet primarily with startup companies and mid-sized companies and talk to CEOs about innovation. And almost always I get this look from them that is the most sour look you've ever seen. I tried to show it to my wife what it looks like, but I still couldn't get it across quite right. It's just a terrible look. And basically what it comes down to after you talk with them is they say, we tried that and it didn't work. We tried innovation and it didn't work. We hired a consultant, the consultant came in, we had a bunch of our people throwing balls around the conference room, and the net result is we got nothing out of it. Nothing. We spent money and we got nothing out of it. I want to talk today about instead of going through all the dry, dull theory about innovation, I would like to talk about 5 cliches that I have found to be true. We know lots of cliches that are not true. You really have to make space for innovation in an organization. Please know I'm talking primarily about small and medium-sized organizations. Yes, large organizations can do a really good job with innovation. My experience is primarily with the smaller organizations. Okay? Making space for innovation, here's a simple and most people would say not logical thing. In a company that I used to work for, we used to have quarterly skeleton meetings. And the skeleton meeting is where you simply opened up the closet and pulled out the skeletons. And very simply, we all individually and collectively identified those things that we were doing that we're not really adding to the bottom line at all. We're not helping our customers. Those skeleton meetings were extremely important. Now, in a lot of companies, people get nervous. We've talked about this when people think, well, if I come up and tell them that I'm doing something that's not helping, I'm going to get fired. But truthfully, in most organizations, finding those things that are not really contributing to what you want to accomplish and then just crossing them off either forever or just for the time being can open up lots of space to innovation. So remember Jack Welch said some years ago, if the environment on the outside of your organization is changing faster than the environment inside, the end is in sight. So if you are not changing internally as fast or faster than what's going on outside, you're not going to be around. Okay? So if you do what you did, you'll get what you got. A second one is don't just get better, get different. Okay? Don't just get better, get different. You've all seen the bell curve that's divided up into quadrants, and the quadrants are like early adopters all the way through laggards. That's my grandmother. You know, the rotary phone still works fine. So there's all these groups of people, and when they adopt different types of technology, we always go for that big blob in the middle. Okay? We want to please as many people as we can because that obviously will result in more sales, more happy customers. That used to work really, really good. It doesn't work now. It doesn't work now at all. There's a new bell curve, and it's a lot different. Okay, the bell curve now only has three quadrants. In the middle of it are those people who are just like, man, I don't care. You know, they like your products or services, but they're not excited, but they're not against them either. They're just, you know, ambiguous about it. On the far right side, you have another section, and those are people who absolutely hate what you do. They loathe it. They get sick whenever they think about what you do. On the far left side, you have another section, and that's those people who love what you do. They are telling everybody at family reunions, people say, give it a rest. You know, we've heard this 1,000 times, okay? But they tend to bring the people from the middle into their category. There's a couple things that are important about this. If you don't have people who dislike what you're doing, you probably are not far enough out on the edge. Okay? Somebody else can easily do what you're doing. So you have to find that there are people who dislike what you're doing. If you don't find those people, then you're not where you need to be. Okay? Yes, you want people to be highly passionate about what you do, but also remember, because there's got to be those people who just say, this is nuts. This is crazy. This is way beyond what we should be doing. Okay? Don't just get better, get different. Third one is focus on what you can control, not on what you can't. Focus on what you can control, not on what you can't. Talk to people in small companies, and they keep comparing themselves to Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. And, you know, it's hard to tell them, you're not Apple Computer. You're you. Okay? So you really need to concentrate not on the best practices, you know, go see everybody to find the best practices. The best you're going to get by studying best practices is you will be equal to those people. Okay? You have to start thinking about next practices. What I mean by that is, what are we going to do that makes us different? Okay? Best practices, everybody does it. We all benchmark ourselves against other organizations, other people. But you have to go way beyond that. If I would say you do less with that and more with thinking, how can we be different? How can we be special? How can we get people to love and to loathe us? How do we do that? Most organizations spend a lot of time with innovation programs. Innovation programs rarely work. Okay? I suggest that you spend more time solving problems. Okay? All of us know that there's problems to be solved. Talk about skeleton meetings. No offense to the parari folks, but I'm willing to bet that if you sat down, you could figure out a couple things that might not be adding to your bottom line. So why spend the time doing that? Okay. What this means is, as an officer in an organization, you really need to set the tone and say, I understand that we need to change. If we don't change, we're not going to exist in a matter of years. Okay? Instead of thinking about what you'll do for the long term, you really need to concentrate on what can we accomplish to fix the problems we face today. And I see a lot of companies that are thinking, for example, we've got to build our brand. And the first thing I say is, who are your customers? Wow, we don't really have any customers yet. What's your products? We don't really have any products, but we're building our brand. Okay? Things need to go in a little bit different order. You know, revenue always comes before expenditures, so you do have to have customers, you do have to have products, services, etc. Okay? One of the best places to start is with your employees. If you say to employees, what bugs you? What drives you nuts? What makes your job hard? And work with them and let them come up with things that really aren't working too well. It does two things. One is you fix those problems with them. But the second thing is it teaches them how to solve those kinds of problems. That's innovation training. When you're actually in a company, working with people, identifying problems, and taking care of them, changing the conditions that you have. So focus on what you can control, not on what you can't. The fourth one I have is Velcro yourself to customers. Velcro yourself to customers. Now, all of us say, I know my customers. Really? It should be when your customer sneezes, you catch cold. Okay? I've seen in the auto industry, I worked in the auto industry for a number of years, this idea that the customer is that person out there, kind of dirty. I don't really want to get too near them because, I might catch something. And the net result is there's this massive gap between people who design cars and people who use cars. Okay? So we call it getting wet. You got to get wet. Nobody ever succeeded in our organization sitting behind a desk. The desk is your enemy. You walk into successful firms and say, where is everybody? Well, they're out working with customers. They're not sitting there, talking about Super Bowl or something like that. They're out. They're out talking to people, getting the ideas. So you have to get out from behind the desk. That's really important. This also requires a little bit of confronting reality. If you go out and talk to customers, you may find out things that you really don't want to find out. You may find out that maybe you're taking the wrong tack as an organization, or you're coming up with products that nobody really cares about. So it's important to work with the people in your company that are kind of at the bottom of the organizational chart, but they have contact with customers all the time. You need that input as much as you can. So Velcro yourself to customers. The last one I have is you don't need more resources. You don't need more resources. You need more resourcefulness. Okay? Innovation, obviously, if you're building a space satellite or a giant stadium or something like that, that takes money, it takes good project management, things like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about everyday organizations, small to medium size companies, and you need resourcefulness, not more resources. One thing to do is to reuse those existing resources that you have. I'm always shocked that we have employees who come in every day and get treated one way, and then they go out at night and they're scout leaders and they're important in their church. What happened? What happened at 5 or 6 o'clock? Did they suddenly get smart when they left the organization? No, I don't think so. So why don't we trust them to participate in the planning and the thinking and the innovation in the company? We need to do that. I also recommend that starting small is the way to go. You have to learn as a group that there is no secret sauce to innovation. Innovation is individual to organizations, and it takes working together to find exactly what the best way is to do it. I don't have a cut and dried innovation program that I go into companies and say, I wave the wand and poof, there you are. I'd like to say that, but I don't. Okay? What I say is, what's bugging you? What seems to be the holes? Why are you mad about things? And inevitably people say, I've been doing this. One part of my job is 25% of my work has nothing to do with where we're going. Okay? That's a problem. Okay? It doesn't mean you have to fire the guy. It means you have to listen to it. So starting small, I suggest that in every organization, no matter what the size is, continually try these cheap, fast, ugly experiments. What I mean by that is don't spend any money. Put together prototypes and go show people. The prototypes can be as ugly as can be. In fact, I recommend that you keep them ugly as long as you can. Because if you have a finished, complete prototype and you show it to somebody, they say, oh, that looks really good. Because it's not really a prototype, it's a model of what you're going to do. So put together prototypes, make them out of cardboard, paper, foam core, anything you want to. But make them ugly, but get them out there. There's a lot of times where I'll talk to people with a prototype of a product and I'm changing it on the spot. They'll say, well, I really don't like this. I just happen to have some Post-it notes, so pull them off in one, stick some new ones on there. Does that look better? So obviously, customers who help you design products are fairly likely to buy those products. Okay? So small, quick, cheap, ugly experiments. I suggest, and Scott and I have talked about this before, of having some simple visual mechanism to gather and comment on ideas in an organization. Now, companies like 3M is a good example. You know, they leave their products out when people are working on it. They leave them out on their desk. They have donuts at 4:30, walk around with donuts and coffee, and just talk about all these different things. Now, in some companies, you know, you want to hide everything because you don't want those imbeciles around you to know anything about them. That's not how it works in successful companies. You're all providing ideas and helping each other on it. So you got to have a visual mechanism. If it's on your computer or if it's on paper, it's your product. If it's up on the wall someplace, it's everybody's. And they can comment on it. They can make changes, suggestions, things like that. So get it off your computer and get it on the wall. Okay? For all organizations, the most important architectural change that's going to happen in the next 10 years is to find a way to use visual spaces. Okay? Vertical visual spaces. Now, we already know how to use desks. That's what you pile everything on. Okay? And we know how to use filing cabinets and things like that. But we have all this vertical space that needs to be used. And one of the best ways is to put ideas up so that people can look at them, comment on them, and help them develop. Last thing is, remember that all wealth is derived from dumb questions. All wealth is designed from dumb questions. Look for those people in your organization that, you know, what? You know, when you hear them, you're not going to go, aha, this is a great idea. What you're going to say is, that's weird. It's those, that's weird people, sometimes with purple hair, that will make the difference in your organization. So pay attention to who those people are. They may be the future for your organization. Okay? I welcome your comments, good questions, bad questions, changes, anything about things that I've talked about. Anyway.
So a question about any thoughts on so, you know, through the recession, we recognize the need for innovation and to be distinctive, and it's worked. And so the fear I have is, how do you keep innovating? You had the fear, you had the motivation, you realize you need to be distinctive and you need to show value, and then it works, and so you get lazy. And so how do you keep that? And I'm thinking of TQM and, you know, this constant cycle and, you know, making yourselves do it, and then it felt like it was make work. You know, it wasn't process improvement.
Well, one thing is to look at what has changed in behavior from the past to now. And you know what's changed? Nothing. It hasn't changed. People talk about innovation a lot, but when you actually see, you know, I say in organizations, how many of your products have you started in the last 5 years? And that's about the time where the people are all looking up at the ceiling tiles. Not too many at all. So behavior hasn't really changed that much in most organizations. Again, the change in behavior comes from embedding innovation into the culture that you have. Remember that old saying from Peter Drucker, I guess it was, that culture eats strategy every day for lunch. Okay, so if your culture says, no, the last guy did that got fired, nobody's going to do anything. There has to be overtly an idea that making changes, failure is just part of the game. Now, I don't recommend that you tell your people, hey, you can bet the farm and, you know, put all of this money into anything that you want to. That's not a good idea. But saying, hey, let's tackle some of these small, tough, intractable issues. Then you get changes in behavior. Because if people say, wow, that feels better, I don't have to do that stupid job anymore. You know, it wasn't really doing anything for our company. all of a sudden they say, well, what else can I do? What other problem can I fix? So it has to be embedded into the culture. Hard thing to do, but it can be done. Other ideas, questions? Yes, sir.
Love to talk about that question if I have one.
Yeah. Looking for wealth.
There it is. There's the wealth.
Because it's a very general question. So, how do you think an organization to implement innovation? Or another way is, if there is any, what are the necessary conditions that has to be met that tell this organization is ready for innovation to change, to implement those things?
Number one is trust. If people don't trust within the organization, if they're nervous about their job, if they're nervous about continuing on feeding their family, nothing happens. So there has to be that trust. That's why so many mergers fail. 95% of mergers fail. And the reason is because you're taking two cultures, putting them together and saying, now everybody trusts each other. Really? You know they're going to be shaving off a number of people, so I don't want to be one of those people, so I'm not going to screw up. We really need to have trust permeate an organization any way you can get it. It's not so much learning about the blocking and tackling of innovation. That can be learned by virtually anybody. It's not a big deal. Going to the airport, there's 100 books on innovation there. And they all add something to it. But if you don't have trust in an organization, don't even plan on trying something like that. So that clearly is the number one thing to do.
So what I've taken away from this a little bit is the systems that you're talking about for fostering innovation seem to be kind of top down approach to it of kind of empowering people to innovate and setting up systems that encourage that. But how do you is there a way to work that from the bottom up? For instance, if management is kind of less open to change or innovation, but they've got middle people, lower tier people that are wanting to innovate and willing to do that. How do you kind of foster that type of culture?
Two things. I don't believe that you can empower anyone. I get in trouble when I write articles and say that because we don't empower people, we ennoble them. In other words, we recognize what they already have. We recognize their skills and abilities, things like that. We can't say, I give you the permission and the power to be smart. You're smart. So, sorry, I don't mean to quibble on them, but I don't mean to quibble on the empowerment and ennoblement. Another thing is there's a thing called emergent innovation. I'm sorry that I'm not into a technical phrase, but emergent innovation is when you have people from the bottom who just say, I'm going to do things below radar. I'm going to make changes. What person at the top is going to be mad when somebody at the bottom says, I made this tiny change and it saved us so many $100,000 a year? I can't think of anybody who's going to really be mad about that. In fact, most organizations, if they're surviving, they already have those people doing that from the bottom. So the smarter thing to do is to recognize those people and say, hey, you're already doing this stuff. How can we transpose this into the rest of the organization or more people in the organization? So it's that trust thing again. If people trust, what you'll find out is suddenly you'll be able to see there's a lot of people doing innovation at lower levels, but now how are they doing it and what can you do to disperse
but again, that's kind of a top-down approach of the next person up is permitting that. Is there a way, are there any strategies for the people that are within that lower tier that want to innovate to kind of be able to push that culture up?
All I can say is by doing innovation at a very small scale and being successful at it will ultimately make people above you say, oh, I better get on this train because it's leaving the station. It almost forces the people above you to do that. Now, if the top officers of an organization don't want people except them doing the innovation, it's all lost because realistically, people are going to say, well, I'm going to get in trouble for innovating, so I'm just going to do what I've always done. If you do what you did, you get what you got. Well, there's a couple of things to think about that. One is the two most dangerous words in an organization today are prove it. You know, before we do this, prove it that it's going to do what we want it to do, that it's going to make us so many $1 million, that, you know, all these types of things. Prove it that it's going to work. Okay? That's where the small experiments come in. You know, basically what you should be saying is, give it a shot. See what happens on a small scale. Don't spend money. Just get out there and see what you can do with it. Because only then will you have an idea whether it's going to go anyplace. But the whole idea that you've got to be able to prove a ROI on everything that you do is not going to make you successful. You know, we're right back to complacency leads to sudden death. I get called into companies all the time when they're ready to die. You know, they're already, you know, the toes are blue and they're ready to check out, and then all of a sudden innovation is really important. Well, you know, it's way too late. It has to be done and built into that culture all the way along. This one.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, and with the questions the gentleman have had, if you are in a position where you're not at the top management, but you really want the innovation, you could prepare a model and or an idea and then present it to upper management and say, this is what I'd like to do. And they'll either say, prove it, or not say prove it, but say, okay, go ahead and get that done. Is that what you're recommending for those who want to innovate at that level?
I'm a little bit more radical.
Oh,
I
thought I was pretty radical.
No, here's what I mean by that. For one company that I worked for some years, we spent, every month we spent thousands and thousands of dollars on trade shows. We would show it at all different trade shows all over the world. Our return on that was not that big. And so it was really a lot of money. And so one trade show, I just, you know, nothing was going right. So I cobbled together using cardboard and masking tape and a pen, a new product. The product didn't exist. Okay? I walked around the trade show and just chatted up anybody I could find from all different companies. And I said, hey, you know, we have this new product and it does this and this. I just had general ideas. You know, what do you think of this? And most of the people would say, you know, we might buy it. And I'd say, well, what would make it better? And they would spell out, well, it needs to do this, it needs to do this. Instead of being laying on a table, it used to be rack mounted, things like that. Well, by the time, once I got to that point, I'd finally say, how much would you pay for it? And I'd say, you know, $1,500? Oh, no. You know, I'd go down to, you know, maybe $500. Yeah, we would do that. And I'd say, good, I'll take your credit card right now. You can buy as many as you want. Or, you know, can you give me your purchase order number and I'll do that. Well, you know, I got such good, complete information doing that when I went back to my workplace, I went to the engineers and said, guys, we got this new product that we need to get on the road. And they said, well, you know, we got this long list of things that we're doing. I said, but I just sold 10,000. And so, you know, we already have purchase orders for these. And of course, they throw their arms around, call me nasty names, nasty engineer names, which are even worse. But the net result is, you know, they're going to sell because you're standing there with purchase orders. Okay, so a lot of times you have to get the information in ways that are a little bit unusual. I didn't read any deep scientific marketing information, you know, marketing studies or anything like that. I simply went out and said, what do you think about this? Actually, you know, looking later at marketing studies showed me just the opposite, that there would not be any need for it. So, but it was those little tweaks that make all the difference. So starting small, you know, getting information from the end users, that's where you get it.
So to follow up, Gary, how does one go to a trade show, get something so wonderful, or maybe something not as wonderful, some information, go back to the traditional boss and prove that the enormous cost of that trade show was worth it in a softer kind of way.
Awful. Ooh, I mean, if you're in something where, you know, people are going to sign up for university training or something like that.
And they don't, which means connection, or you've got an idea, or a new thought.
Yeah, and the timing is all, it's not going to, you know, you see somebody at a trade show 5 years later, they're taking classes from their school, and there's no way you can prove that connection. You know, you have to have somebody that says, okay, let's try and just see where we go with it. Those soft things like that are very, very hard. Products are fairly easy. Services, ideas, processes, environments, those are all not hard. That's why you have to have somebody that says, I know you can't give me an ROI on that. And even worse, if you say this other school is doing it and they're getting lots of people, you may be measuring the wrong thing. You may be getting lots of people some other way. You know, so it you know, it just confuses the issue. Sorry, I don't have a good answer for that. I knew it was easy for my company because I knew going to the trade shows, we could see immediately, you know, what if sales just stayed exactly where they were, probably didn't mean a whole lot.
Unless you got relationships like the sales
Over
time.
Right. Yeah, and the strange thing about that is there might be one person at a trade show that you see that he became a customer forever and provided a big, you know, I think I worked with IBM, and you know they started buying specific products from us, and it was like we have an open PO. You know, whenever we call you up, just send us a bunch. So, you know, you live for those ones. Bluebirds fly through the window sometimes. What else, folks? Anybody? Okay, well, I'm going to hang around here and eat lots of donuts and drink lots of coffee. So if I can help with anything or answer any questions, I'd be glad to give you my card if you ever want to just call and talk about issues that you're running into. I'm happy to do that. If you want to have coffee anytime, I work at Regent University and we are powered by good coffee. So welcome to stop by anytime. And okay. Thank you for
Thanks. Thank you.